So like yesterday, while the obstacle clearing ritual is performed, then please reflect on the Heart Sutra. So this completes the obstacle clearing ritual. And then for the preliminary, some of the activities on the part of the Vajra Master. So since today it is only the preliminary part of the preliminary to the actual empowerment, so only the self-generation and also making offering tormas. So only those were completed, and on the part of the Vajra disciples, then just like yesterday, ablution and prostrations were already offered. Ablution here, during the sadhana, and then at a certain part, then there is something like generating the action vase. So we have two vases, the victory vase and the action vase. And since today is a preliminary, then only the action vase was generated. And from once this has been generated, then some of the blessed water is taken from this and then distributed. So that was distributed during the ablution, right? And this is something like to wash and to attend these dharma gatherings by sort of, we say, cleansing, So it is a part of cleaning. The main part is, of course, as you all know, it's to clean one's mind. This is really the meaning of ablution, right? Even though we take the water and clean our mouths with it, and also I think cleaning the mouth, also something it has to do with the throat, with the throat. And this is very much, the throat chakra is very much connected with our thoughts, especially something like discriminative thoughts, discriminative thoughts. So then the main point of this part is to, of course, to come with a clean mind, to come with a good intention, with good intention and good motivation. So this is, I think, the purpose of ablution. And then the second was prostration. And prostration, as you all know, we have the body, speech, and mind, right? Prostration, body, speech, and mind prostration. And so body prostration is such as like the prostrations that we make, and also in different cultures we have different ways of making this physical prostration, right? So these are all different forms of physical prostration, and speech prostration or verbal prostration is, of course, offering homage, praises to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and so on. And then mental prostration is seeing the good qualities, seeing the good qualities, and then wishing for those good qualities, right? So this is the main point of what we say to prostrate. To prostrate is to wish for the qualities of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And now coming to the third part, mandala offering. Then, as we discussed yesterday, what is being offered is our positive seeds, our positive actions, the positive karma, virtuous karma, and also the seeds of virtuous karma of the 3 times, right? The virtuous actions that we have committed and that we are committing and that we will commit. This is what we are offering, and offering in the form of the universe. So this is what is being offered. Generally, since this is a tantric practice, so in Buddha Dharma, the Buddha gave different paths. He showed different paths. So one path is the Sāvakayana, and then the Paramitayana and Tantrayana. Just as the Paramitayana is very much based on the teachings and the practices that are central to the Sāvakayana. Likewise, Tantrayana is very much based on the Paramitayana. So without the practices from Sāvakayana and Paramitayana, then Tantrayana, there is no, it loses its strength, it loses its power. So this is, I think, very important to remind ourselves, So, for example, the Buddha's first teaching, on the 4 truths. So this is a very important part of the Sāvakayana teachings. So this is the base. And then from the Paramitayana, then the emphasis on the awakening mind, bodhicitta, then this is very important. Also including both the conventional and ultimate bodhicitta. And then in Tantrayana, one unique feature is adding this practice of the pure view, the pure view or pure perception. So this is why we meditate ourselves as meditational deities, as Buddhas. So in the Tantrayana path, then we meditate on ourselves as having these enlightened qualities, enlightened qualities as of now. So this is a very important part of the Tantra, of the tantric practice. So these enlightened aspects, such as the venue, not being ordinary, but being an inconceivable mansion, and then being surrounded by not ordinary companions, but enlightened companions, and so forth, right? So all of this to really see, all the universe and the inhabitants as enlightened beings. This is really a very important part of the Tantrayana path. Just to sort of make a little clarification, then there's this question, then if this is the case, then isn't this something like, almost like fooling ourselves, How is this possible? It is not true that this world is all pure and all enlightened, and that all the inhabitants are all, enlightened beings, right? So there is this question, and yes, that is true. This is not to say that in this path we really try to believe that everyone around us is perfect, and that there is no afflictive emotions, and that there is no samsara. No, then this is a misunderstanding, right? So this is not what is being taught here. This is not the practice. It is not like we are trying to it's not like we are trying to convince ourselves that everything is all nice and that there is no suffering. We are not trying to be delusional, right? So this is a misconception. For this kind of questions, then it is very important to go into depth about our minds. This is very important, and we cannot, in one discussion, we cannot get rid of our misconceptions anyhow, right? So we have to. This is why it is important to, in order to further deepen our understanding, then to go into the subtleties of the teachings, go into the subtleties of the sutras and the tantras. This is very important. Okay, so something like maybe an easy answer or a concise answer to such discussions is, whenever we try to meditate on the meditational deity, then it is very important to do so from emptiness, from emptiness. This is the main point. Without starting from emptiness, then by simply averting emptiness and then going straight into other practices, then if one is not careful, then this can give rise to even more misconceptions and conceptual thoughts and dualistic thoughts. So to cut through that, then the Heart Sutra teachings is therefore so important. So then, by dissolving everything into emptiness, and then from a state of emptiness, then in this inconceivable mansion, surrounded by beings of the mandala, and then offering the mandala to the Vajra master, who, for the purpose of generating the pure view, then which is inseparable from the principal deity, Chenrezig, 11-faced, 1,000-armed Chenrezig, and then please proceed with the mandala offering. So the preliminary has a few parts, beginning with setting the motivation. And here there's a quotation from the general Tantras. Talking about the various motivations that some enter the mandala with a motivation for something like just thinking about within the bounds of this life, whereas others, they enter the mandala with a wish for only seeking happiness for future lives, and then others, they enter the mandala with the wish for benefiting others, right? So then it is this third motivation. This is the proper motivation. Refuge and bodhicitta. Refuge, if we think about it, it is essentially something like, I could say, compassion for oneself, right? This is what refuge means. To take refuge is essentially seeking, having compassion for oneself, right? And then bodhicitta, it's like refuge on behalf of others, right? So when we think about refuge, taking refuge, and generating the altruistic intention, that is bodhicitta, then there is a connection there. There is a very strong connection there. If we think about our problems or our issues, and when we think of the causes of why we are going through, why we are in our current state, and how we can change that, what are the solutions and who can help us with this solution, then we are going into taking refuge. And when we apply the same, but instead of using ourselves as the focus, instead of focusing on ourselves, if we, in place of ourselves, if we put others in our shoes, in our place, and then think about how, just like us, everyone else is very much in the same situation or similar situations, right? And if we reflect on that, then we are going into bodhicitta, right? So these two, taking refuge and then generating the altruistic intention, bodhicitta, with this practice, then this is the basis on which one enters the mandala, right? On which one creates this connection with the principal deity, Chenrezig. Om Bemen Daje Om Pe Lama Nam Giji Ge Papa Jereze Jeji Chanibe Namba Jendo Juru Jeji Chanibe Namba Jendo Juru Dadene Sundevige Dirish So Tapjing Zendo Shubas. So now making petitions. So with the mind of with the wish of then entering the mandala, then please make this, with this in mind, then please repeat. So then, something like developing a faith in the tantric path. So I think for this, there is no need for much explanation. This tantric path includes all the central, all the main practice of the Paramitayana and also the Sāvakayana, and it embodies all of these central teachings that the Buddha Shakyamuni has shown us. So then, now generating the Bodhisattva vows. So with the 18 root downfalls and the 46 minor transgressions, so this is what needs to be avoided. And for example, the 18 root downfalls, most of these they occur when we diverge away from our bodhicitta practice. In other words, when the self-cherishing becomes too strong, when the self-cherishing becomes too extreme, when our cherishing becomes too extreme, then there are risks of committing these root downfalls, right? So then here the main point is, having taken the Bodhisattva vows, then the main commitment is to, as much as possible, to uphold this cherishing others practice, to try as much as to, whether through our body, speech, and mind, to really practice compassion. This is the point. And also something like in our relationships with others, again, then exercising mindfulness, as mindfulness is very much taught even on the Sāvakayana path, then this is one practice to bring from the Sāvakayana and then really apply mindfulness, the mindfulness practice in our body, speech, and mind activities, which then helps in making our activities more productive, more productive and more beneficial, not only for oneself, but also for others, and not only for others, but also for oneself as well. With this motivation, of engaging in the activities of the Bodhisattva, which is essentially cherishing others' practice, cherishing others' activities. With this in mind, then in the retinue of so this I can add maybe for tomorrow. So with this mind, then proceeding with generating the Bodhisattva vows.